Welcome to selfdiscoveryradio.com, where the orchard of wisdom is just ready for picking. We celebrate your why, the journey that you've taken that inspires someone else. We support your services, we support your story. Come and be our guest, become a host, be an author with us. Come and see what we've got. Our next show is...
The Wellness Journey inspires, enlightens, and informs women over 40 and all the people who love them. It is a journey that we will take with tips from authors, doctors, and practitioners of holistic living. During this show, experts in the field will provide tips, tools, and techniques that are fun and simple for all to try. Come join me on this journey. Get inspired, get informed, and get well. What's on our minds in terms of wellness for the mind, body, and spirit. And this particular webcast series is going to be all about living your life like it's golden. That's one of my favorite songs by Jill Scott. And I love the concept about living your life in a free way, living in your life thriving, and regardless of what your age is, you know, in this case, a lot of us are over 40, over 50, and for me, I'm over 60. I still can't believe I'm saying I'm over 60. And even being over 60, still feeling energetic and excited about all the possibilities that God has for us. And today I have literally one of my favorite authors and motivational speakers with me, McCarthy. She is awesome. I read her book, Gratitude. It was called, in fact, I literally do put it in my little purse when I'm walking and I want to read something. It's called The Path to Wealth. And she was on my show, and you can see it on the platform on the Self-Discovery Network about 2 years ago. And I actually got so involved in what she was saying, I started doing it. I started doing the things that she recommends, and it has changed my life forever. The demonstrations, in combination with the other things that I've done to kind of increase my wellness, has brought me to a place where I feel like doing a theme of living your life like it's golden. And I just want to welcome May to the Wellness Journey podcast series. It's wonderful to have you here today.
Oh, thank you, Linus. I'm delighted to be here. And yes, you are living your life as you're golden.
Yes, I am.
Beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's been wonderful. I want to make sure that everybody knows your remarkable journey. Since 1982, you are the co-founder of and have grown 6 profitable companies, including multi-million-dollar technology companies. And you've worked for Fortune 5 companies like Johnson & Johnson and Boeing. And you have become an angel investor, and just some wonderful things that you've done around the innovation of entrepreneurship. In fact, you're a guest lecturer and you're a professional speaker, and just doing all kinds of wonderful things to share about the spiritual success principle. And it's just wonderful for you to be able to come and share your latest book, which I have to admit, I haven't read yet, listeners, but I'm going to read it because any book she writes, I'm going to buy it and read it. And what's the name of your newest book, and why did you decide to write it?
It's called The Gratitude Formula. Okay. And I wrote this book primarily because people like you who have read my first book were, I'd say about 99.9% of the people would say that they were achieving their goals, that they were having really unusual and exciting things happen, you know, things that they termed as miracles. They were starting to become typical in their lives for the things that they believed were possible. But for those really big goals, the ones that were different than anything they'd experienced before or bigger than anything they'd experienced before, their beliefs weren't caught up with what they were desiring. And so consequently, some of them would contact me and say they were going to give up on those goals. And I said, you know what, don't do that, because success is simply a system. You've already proved that success is a system. It's not a secret. And you can achieve these goals too. Let's take in line with the things that you desire. And once your beliefs shift, you will notice more intuitive messages, more guidance, more directions from your CSO, your Chief Spiritual Officer, to achieve those things as well. And I love to remind people, they're already so powerful. They've proved it. I mean, think about when you learn to read. You had to sound out every single word and letter and really concentrate and put it into a sentence and then a paragraph and relate it to the rest of the story. And now can't you just skim paragraphs and get the same understanding? Or how about learning to write or type on that crazy keyboard that's not even in alphabetical order? I mean, I know people now who can type faster than I can talk. And what about learning to ride a bike or drive a car? You weren't an expert the first time that you did it. You put in repetitive practice and you found other people that had achieved the same goal to help you believe that it was possible. One of my very favorite authors, who was published in 1925, a woman named Florence Scovel Shinn. She wrote a book called The Game of Life.
Yes.
Yes. And she said that we can't always control our thoughts, but we can control our words. And through repetition of our words, we then impress the subconscious and can master anything. So repetition reaps rewards in terms of a goal attainment strategy, and making what you want familiar and welcome is also key, because your brain will put your CSO's messages on mute if you don't believe it's possible for you to achieve what you want.
This is so true, because when I first read the first book, The Path of Wealth, I did hit a plateau. And I began to think, okay, well, maybe this other stuff just isn't possible. But then I added some other tools, and part of it was the messages that I was saying to myself. You're right, my belief system wasn't there yet. I was subscribing to the idea that I could do it, but my belief system wasn't there yet. How do we get to that point where we're at that plateau? How do we stay motivated to get to the next level? Because you have to stay motivated, inspired to get to the next level. And what kinds of things do we need to be saying to ourselves based upon, you know, what you wrote in your book to get to that next level?
Right. So the very first thing is to make sure that you're disciplined and consistent. Repetition is really important. Even if you don't think it's working, it's working. Okay? Because what happens with us is that as we start to achieve things and it becomes routine and typical, these wonderful miracles become typicals in our lives, we start to forget how our life used to be. And one of the things that you have to do is keep up with your daily practice every single day and use the right words. You know, instead of saying, I want to get out of debt, or I want to lose 10 pounds, or I don't want to be in debt anymore. What happens with your subconscious and your intuition is they carefully analyze the words that you use and then determine how they can help you. Well, with the goal, I want to get out of debt, or I want to lose 10 pounds, the goal is to be wanting. You've already achieved it. You don't need your subconscious or intuition to help you with that. Okay. And if you talk about, I don't want my boss to be a pain in the butt at work, or I don't want to be in debt anymore, I don't want to have conflict with my family, your subconscious does not understand the don't want. All it sees is a mental picture of you having conflict with the people that are in your life, or feeling upset. And so it will point out more evidence of what you said you don't want happening. It'll point out more evidence to you that it's continuing to happen and even growing. So we have to be very careful with our words and describe our goals as though they're already achieved with gratitude. Gratitude's a choice.
So give me an example. Let's say I don't want to say I don't want to be in debt anymore, and I don't want to say I want to not be in debt anymore. Instead of saying I don't and I want, how do I change that messaging around?
Well, ask yourself some questions. What would my life be like if I wasn't in debt? Who would I be with? What would I be doing? How would I feel? Where will I be? And then describe that with gratitude. I'm so grateful that I am financially free and debt-free with a minimum or more of X number of dollars in my life to use and enjoy, to bless others with, and to invest and increase. I'm so grateful that all of my properties are paid off, and that I easily and joyfully use the wonderful gifts that I've been given, this wonderful financial freedom, to bless my world.
That's wonderful. And in your second book, first of all, I want to digress a little bit and talk a little bit about the path to wealth. And if you can just basically quickly explain what the steps are that you talk about in Path and Wealth. And then if you could also explain how you segue from that to what's in your current book.
Okay, so in the Path to Wealth, I ask people to take on the source of intuition as a spiritual partner. And the job description is that you describe what it is that you want as though it's already complete with gratitude. Your spiritual partner, who I refer to as the CSO, creates the path for you to get there and gives you one step to take at a time along that path. You take the steps, or you ask for another lead, and then eventually you feel confident enough to take the steps and achieve your goals. And then rinse and repeat. So the way that you have a meeting every single day with your CSO is to take the first 4 of 7 steps in the daily practice outlined in the Path to Wealth. The first 4 steps are, for 5 minutes, read something inspirational that puts you into a receptive mood. Short stories about ordinary people having extraordinary experiences are great for this, because what it does is it lets your brain know, if they could do it, I could do it. The second step is to write out a gratitude letter to your CSO, to this source of intuition, to this divine intelligence that's going to guide you through intuition and messages through other people. So for 10 minutes, write out a gratitude letter that describes your gratitude for what you have now and for what you want, but describe it as though you already have it. All right? Then the third step is to take 5 minutes, read what you wrote, speak it out loud, because any school teacher will tell you that when you speak out loud, it anchors the meaning more fully within you. And what we're trying to do is prime your brain for success, to let your brain know, look, I'm serious about these goals. Let those intuitive messages flow through to me. Then finally, take one of your goals, and for 5 minutes, close your eyes and imagine seeing yourself in the completed goal. Where are you? What's your life like? How do you feel? What's going on around you? It's a movie. It's an imaging, not just a static picture, but a really full experience.
Wow.
Then the daytime practice are steps 5 and 6. You go out throughout your day, you expect and watch for these intuitive leads. And all of us can do this. Think about the last time that you bought a car. You know, you may have thought about the car and talked to your friends and family about the car. Maybe you went and test drove the car. And then your subconscious knew that that was important to you. So it filtered all of the cars on the road and illuminated those ones that were consistent with the car that you wanted. You started to notice that car everywhere, whereas before you didn't. So that's what we're trying to do, is get our subconscious and intuition. So expect and watch for leads. If you get a lead, take a step. Even if you haven't completed your goal yet, if you get a strong thought to go somewhere or to contact someone, do it. If you get an intuitive message to take some action, or somebody says something to you that just resonates with you and you know that's your message, take action. You have to show action faith. Even if you haven't reached your goal yet, take one step and proclaim that you know that you're being guided and directed to achieve this good that you've described. When you take a step, celebrate. That's step 6. Make sure you've got somebody to celebrate with. Jump up and down, call them up, send them a text, let them know that you want to get on the phone or on Skype or in person to celebrate that you got a lead and you took action. And then at night, what we do is we use step 7, which is 2 parts. The first part is to lay in bed right before you go to sleep and just out loud say thank you for anything that comes to mind that happened during the day. Thank you so much for the parking spaces I got in front and I didn't have to get wet in the Seattle rain. Thank you so much for the opportunity to see my friend Linus again and visit with her on her show. And just knowing that her show is just going to be monumentally successful. Thank you so much for this. Thank you so much for that. Whatever comes to mind. Then the second part of step 7 is to give forth anything that's taking up room within you and not serving you, so that you can have room to receive the good things that you're describing. I want you to think of it like this. If you have a full bottle of water, full bottle of water, it's filled to the brim. Can you fit any more water in it? No, you have to pour some out first, right? To receive more. Well, we're the same way. If we're filled up to the brim with stuff, and some of that stuff is not serving us, like resentment or anger or jealousy or pain or unforgiveness, if we're filled up with some of that stuff that's not serving us, there's no room to receive the good that we want. Case in point, I mean, can you remember the last time that you were angry or upset about something or worried? If I came up to you and started to have a conversation with you, could you hear me?
No.
Probably not, because you're all consumed, right? So what you need to do is use this giving forth prayer every single night. You don't have to believe the words. It still works. And you give forth anything from your past or present that's taking up room that you need to forgive. You just give it forth, and it takes it out of you and puts it over here on the side. Now, you may need to pay attention to that pile someday.
Right. You have to get to it. Right.
Yeah, you may need to, but we've made room now for you to receive the good that you want. So that's what I call the 7 steps of the daily practice.
I love the 7 steps because 7 is the number of completion, and I love that. And as you're talking to me, I'm getting really excited again about this process, because I have to tell you, and I think I shared this with you before, I created a course around this concept.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and it leads to your book, which people can purchase. And I've probably had maybe 100 or more people take this course. It's for free. And it's just to get them familiar with the idea of the practice and with continuity, discipline, and also changing the way we think about our lives. Yeah. We are always thinking about what we don't have. In my group, the Wellness Woman 40 group on Facebook, today I asked my women to name 3 things they love about themselves. We spend so much time thinking about what's not right, what we don't have, what we can't do, what we're upset about, whatever, that we miss this whole opportunity to celebrate what we do like. And that celebration piece, that is so huge. I can't tell you how many times my husband has opened the door of my office and said, "What's going on?" And I'm celebrating something that may not be that significant to him, but to me, it is. It's huge. And the idea of getting that intuition and getting the courage to go ahead and do it anyway. Do it with fear anyway, as my friend Joyce Meyer says, do it with fear anyway. Even though you may not feel really good and it's outside your comfort zone, when you do it and you get to the other side of it, you're like, wow, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Let's do it again. Kind of like a roller coaster. You're going straight downhill, and you're scared to death. But before you got on there, you didn't want to get on. Your friends make you go on. Your kids make you go on. You're screaming the whole time. And at the end of it, you're like, most of us anyway, some of us anyway, wow, that was fun, let's do it again. And for me, this whole thing of the path of wealth and the 7 steps is very much like that. Some days, there'd be some days where I wouldn't want to do the practice, other days when I felt like it's not working, and then something would happen. And then all of a sudden I would just kind of reconfirm, where I am right now in my show, in my business, and everything is because of this philosophy of the 7 steps. And I have to publicly thank you again, May, for writing these books. So in your other book, when you're talking about the next steps, what are the 7 steps? What kinds of things do you talk about in this book?
Well, in the first step of the gratitude formula is to use a daily practice.
Yeah, that one.
And have a partnership with this source of intelligence, this source of intuition. And I ask people in my books to, if they don't have a daily practice, try the one that I describe on. Do it for 30 days without fail, as written. It's my belief that they have a special and unique and wonderful relationship with that which created them, which they are a part of. So it stands to reason, after you get in this habit of having this partnership and this relationship, you might be guided to change a few things so that it's uniquely yours. That's perfectly fine. It is absolutely wonderful. But the key is to use a daily practice every single day. Repetition reaps rewards. The second step is to make sure that you're using the right words. Create powerful goal attainment statements as though your goals are completed with gratitude. And I walk people through exercises in the gratitude formula to really help them understand how to create those goals. I ask questions in every major area of their life, in their finances, their relationships, their spiritual connection, their health, their use of skills and talent in remarkable and wonderful ways, and their recreation, so they can get recharged and be balanced. So we walk through in the gratitude formula each of those areas and help people through a series of questions and answers to come up with some really powerful goal attainment statements that they can use. The third step is to choose goals that are right for you, not other people's goals. And sometimes in our positions in life, because we maybe work for a company that has goals, and so there are sometimes when we have to do things that are required of us that aren't very much fun, or in our role as a spouse or a parent or a sibling or a caregiver of an elderly parent. Sometimes we have to do things that are required in our role that aren't much fun. So the very first thing you do is ask yourself, am I required to do this? And if so, then start proclaiming in your goal meeting every day with your CSO that it's easy and joyful and fun. And
exactly.
all of the resources are available. But if it's not required of you, ask yourself some questions on whether or not there might be an opportunity to help the person achieve their goal without you actually having to be the one to take on their goal. Because what ends up happening is when we take on people's goals and we think, oh, you know, we're being helpful and, oh, they're going to appreciate it. Sometimes they don't appreciate it, and we feel resentful and angry and upset and stressed out. Well, those are all the things that I said you can fill yourself up with that aren't serving you and taking up room within you, so that you don't receive the good things that you want. So I describe some situations like that in the gratitude formula for people to review. And I'm sure that a lot of people are going to identify with some of them. The fourth step is to recognize that your brain loves you. And your brain remembers every single time that you had a goal in the past that you didn't achieve and how disappointed you were. So when you have a goal that's bigger than anything you've achieved before, or different than anything you've achieved before, your brain puts spirit on mute because it's trying to protect you from being disappointed and hurt again. And what you have to do is figure out a way, and I describe some methods that you can do this, to convince your brain that you're serious about this goal and that it's okay to let those messages through. You're going to achieve that goal.
I have to intervene real quick right here, because this is something that just happened to me the other day. I haven't done coaching one-on-one a lot because I've been focusing on my shows and my magazine and some other things, my online courses. And I felt like coaching was just taking a lot of time. But I had someone that approached me who wanted to work with me, and she was willing to pay my fees, which are not cheap because I only do work with one person at a time, you know. So I said, okay. So she was very excited. She said, you know, send me the invoice right away. And I said, okay. So I went ahead, wrote it up, you know. We had our session like 2 days later, and towards the end of the session, she says, you know, Liz, I didn't get the invoice. And I said, you didn't? And she said, no. I said, I know, I saved it. I said, well, let me check. So I go back, I look, and I don't see it in the sent. Then I see I've got a couple of drafts in there, and I usually keep my drafts clear. And there it was in drafts. Because subconsciously, consciously, whatever, my brain was kind of like protecting me, because inside I still wasn't even believing that she was willing to pay that fee. That's the first thing. And I was a little scared of that. And so I actually didn't send the invoice.
Yeah.
Such a good example, man. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because many times we circumvent ourselves because of our lack of a belief in terms of knowing our value and our worth and truly believing that we deserve the success.
Absolutely. And that goes to mental equivalence.
Mm.
You know, sometimes we have a goal that's here, but this is the highest level of good that we can stand, right? And so what we can do is increase our belief system to be on par with what we want. And the way that we do that is through repetition of your daily practice and making what you want familiar and welcome. And I'll give you an example of that if that's okay.
Yes.
I have a friend of mine. He's just the coolest guy, and he lives in San Diego. And he decided he wanted to be a real estate baron. He wanted to be a successful realtor and sell those really multi-million-dollar houses and be hugely successful. And he's a really nice guy. So he got his license and he hung his shingle at an office. And after about 8 months of doing real estate, he was going to give up. He's had clients that ran him ragged for very little money in commissions. And he thought, you know, with all the time and energy I've put in, I could make more money being a barista at Starbucks or a coffee shop and have more fun, a lot less stress. And so he told me he was going to give up on this goal and try something else. And I said, don't do that yet. Are you using your daily practice? And he said, well, not consistently. I said, well, start being disciplined, use it consistently. Let's create some goal attainment statements that work for you. So we did. Then go out and find people who are successful realtors. Find people that have already achieved the kind of thing that you want to achieve. Read their stories, meet them at networking events, all sorts of stuff. So he did that over several months, and he started to believe, wow, if they could do it, I could do it. I mean, they don't have any additional education that I do. They started from nothing just like I am, and they made a huge success. I could do this. As soon as that happened, his brain said, okay, your beliefs have caught up with your goal. I will now take the CSO's intuitive messages off mute. Well, one of his intuitive messages was to contact surf shops and corporations in San Diego who had executives that liked to surf. He used to compete in surfing earlier in life, and he was quite good. And he came up with a list of correlating risk-taking properties that were similar in business and similar in surfing. And he put together this really cool little presentation about using surfing and great videos, and he knows tons of professional surfers. And so he put this presentation together, and he offered to give it free to surf shops and to corporations where he would come in for free. Well, through that, all these people just fell in love with him because he's a super nice guy, and he's smart and he's fun. And he made friends with these executives as well, who ended up referring a ton of business to him. And he has not only achieved his goal that he had then, he has already achieved higher and greater amounts of success. And he's made a whole bunch of new surfing buddies in the process. So any of us can do this, but we have to recognize that our brain loves us and wants to protect us. And so it will put those intuitive messages on mute unless it's convinced that we believe that our goal is possible.
That's so key and so important. So we've gotten to that. I think you were on step.
That's the fourth step. So fifth step is to be patient. You know, so often in our society, if we think of something that we need, like I flew here to Seattle and I forgot to pack something. So I went on Amazon and it'll be here at my door today. I went on last night and it'll be here today. I'm so used to having things immediately available to me. So a lot of us in society are, and we get impatient. And just like learning to ride a bike, just like learning to drive a car, just like learning to read, if you're going to study a second language, you have to be patient. And you have to use repetition in your practice to be able to master the skill. And so you've got to be patient when you're waiting for leads as well. Don't try and force anything, because if you try and force something and you fail, your brain's going to go back into protective mode again and put everything on mute. The sixth step is to be disciplined. Even when you don't think your daily practice is working, even if you don't have some great goal that you're working on that's monumental and giant, it's still working to give you a really solid foundation, so that if something unexpected does happen and shows up in life, which, you know, occasionally we have stuff that just shows up that we don't expect, we won't get rocked. We will easily be able to move through that sudden fear or that sudden panic and get right back to a place of peace, knowing that our CSO is going to guide us to achieve what we want the outcome to be, which is, you know, resolution or higher and greater good for everyone concerned. And then finally, the seventh thing is to discover your purpose. If you want your life to be easier in all areas of your life, living from your purpose will help you to achieve that. I mean, if you look at quotes from Jack Canfield, Deepak Chopra, Dr. Wayne Dyer, he said that when he used to chase after money, he never had enough. But as soon as he started to live his life on purpose and give of himself to bless others, money just flowed in. He had never been more prosperous. So living from purpose, the purpose is the why that you exist, not what you do, but the why that you exist. Why are you here to do what you do? And I've known my purpose since I was about 12, which is to bless others and be blessed. And I've taken that purpose and brought it into my businesses. So each of my businesses have a purpose. And, you know, I used to tell people about that, especially Fortune 500 companies that I was working with, who were either reselling our products or we had business relationships with us. And they used to laugh at me. What do you mean you have a purpose for your company? Are you out of your mind?
Right.
No, this makes us more profitable and more successful. And guess what? Ernst & Young funded a study that was published in the Harvard Business Review in 2015. And it said, it surveyed over almost 500 major corporate CEOs and found that those corporate CEOs who had established a purpose for the company and got all of their stakeholders, their employees, their customers, their investors, everybody to buy in, tended to be more profitable.
I believe that.
And I proved the same thing. And a purpose for a company, the why that they exist, is very different than what they do.
Right.
What we used to do is manufacture software and team it up with giant pieces of equipment to automate the drug distribution processes in hospitals. Mm-hmm. But why did we do it? Why did we exist? To save lives. Because we put barcodes on every single medication so that they can validate the accuracy at the bedside and prevent those 100,000 people that were dying every single year in hospitals from getting the wrong drugs. We were able to help prevent many of those deaths.
Wow, that is awesome.
And you know the Kellogg's company, right? They manufacture and distribute food products. Mm-hmm. But do you know what they say their purpose is? The why that they exist? To nourish families so they can flourish and thrive. Imagine going to work at a manufacturing company where you do the same job every single day. Could get kind of boring. But if you're doing your job to nourish families so they can flourish and thrive, wouldn't you be more engaged in what you do? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what this does. It fuels our passion.
Yes.
To be able to do what we want to do. And those are the 7 steps.
And I love that. And you're absolutely right about the purpose, which is very different than a mission statement. The purpose gives you that intrinsic feeling from a spiritual perspective in terms of why you do what you do. And it's so important, especially in the workplace, because we spend so much time there. And you become like this empty shell of a person if you don't have something more than just that mission statement and the goals and and objectives in terms of, profit and loss and all the other things that they set for you when you're working in a corporation. I worked in a large corporation. I was in corporate America for 20 years, 25 years. And probably one of the reasons why I ended up with an anxiety disorder after so many years wasn't that I wasn't successful, wasn't that I did not have a lot of money. I made great money. What happened was that I realized that I wasn't really living my truth. I wasn't really tapping the other gifts, talents, and abilities that God had given me, and that there was no real purpose for me that I was passionate about. If you're passionate about your purpose, especially you entrepreneurs out there, if you're doing really what you want to do, then inevitably you will be successful, especially if you use a practice like what May has created. But if you're doing, one of the things I test to make sure that I'm staying on path, if on my daily to-do list, I use the old-fashioned Ben Franklin method of arrows and stuff, whatever you don't finish today, you draw an arrow and it goes to the next day. Well, if I'm drawing arrows and I'm going into the third day and I haven't done that, there must be a reason why it's not getting done. And it falls off my list. The things that I really need to get done, they always get X's within the day or two. But those other things I just kind of added because, I don't know, it's the right thing to do. Like, for instance, when I have to write a blog, I write blogs when I am moved to write it. It's not part of my daily practice to write a blog every single day because that's just not how I am rigged. It's just not ultimately part of what's important to me when pursuing my passion. It's a part of it, but it's not the A1. It's like, maybe C1 or something like that. And once I realized that, I stopped beating myself up about it. Oh my God, I didn't write a blog today or last week, or whatever. And now I write it when intuition tells me to. And every time I do it, it always gets a lot of hits. It always does. I don't know why. I really believe, well, I do know why. It's because the universe does rise up and conspires to support those things that you're passionate about, those things that the intuition has told you to do. If you get that voice and it tells you to do something, the universe is going to make it so that it will happen. The only thing that gets in our way is ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. And in the gratitude formula, I do take people through a process if they don't know how to figure out what their purpose is. And it surprises me that there's a lot of people that don't have that real innate knowing like you do, why you're here to do what you do. And have that incredible and wonderful passion around their purpose. And so I take people through a series of questions and answers to help them discover their own personal purpose. And many of my clients, as you know, because I consult all over the world for different companies and CEOs and executives. And so I take them through not only personal purpose, but also to help them discover what their company purpose is. And it's been amazing. One client of mine who owns a law firm, she went through the process to discover her personal purpose and then wanted to have a company purpose. Now, she had given me a financial goal at the beginning of this year. And we went through the purpose exercise and she conveyed it in February. We started in January and she conveyed it to her employees and her stakeholders in February. By the end of March, she had already reached her entire 2018 financial goal. She was shocked, and it came in a miraculous way. So she had to create a bigger goal.
I love that. And as I'm listening to you, I'm like, I cannot wait to get this book, because just last week, because of the fact that I've been practicing this religiously and some other things also that support this, my own little tweaking it, because I do tapping. And so that really helps a lot. I literally, one of the things I put in my intent journal, because I keep an intent journal. I have a gratitude journal, I have an intent journal, I have a personal journal, whatever. I'm journaling all the time. Those are my personal blogs that I do every day. And I wrote in my intent that I wanted to double my income the fall last week. I wanted to double my income. I had just concluded a contract. And I said, gee, I really want to replace that income. I said, well, one way to replace it is just to double my income for this week. And do you know that it happened? Yes. It came from a totally different source. I didn't even expect it. And I'm on this trajectory now. And I wanted to put a real highlighter on something you said about surrounding yourself with people of like minds, or with people whose success resonates with you. That is so important, because one of the things that I prayed for at the beginning of this year, that God would send me women who were more successful than I, who could mentor me, whose energy could rub off on me. And he did that thing. He absolutely did. And now, believe it or not, they're a part of my business, which is just blowing me away. But we are doing a broadcast together. We're going to be producing a show that's going to go on cable for women, talking about issues that women of color have when it comes to their wellness. And it was my idea, but I didn't have a clue as to who I would, ask to, partner with me. And I was just talking to them about it just in happenstance, and never even thinking they would be interested because they're so successful and so busy and everything else. And I went, we want to do that. That sounds good.
I love it. Congratulations.
My belief system is going up, and you're absolutely right. When your belief system goes up in terms of your ability to achieve that thing, the universe does open up, your brain does open up, and then things just start coming.
They do. It ends up just aligning perfectly. And when you reach a goal and you turn around and look at the path that you were led on, and all the people that showed up that you may not have had access to before, and it seems miraculous. And in the gratitude formula, what I love to do is remind people of what miracles are. They're extraordinary and unusual events that happen, right? And sometimes they even have a spiritual intervention in that.
Yes.
It's my belief that through the use of these principles that are outlined in both the Path to Wealth and the gratitude formula, that we can turn miracles into typicals in our lives.
I love that. Miracles into typicals. Oh my gosh. And that just so leads to the whole idea of what's a part of what's important when it comes to really living your life like you're golden, is pursuing those passions, not putting them to the side. Because I find that so many of us, and women in particular, we have a tendency to put ourselves on the back burner. And by the time we reach back there, we're so far back, we can't even reach there. Or when we do get to it, it's like that pot we didn't clean. It's all mildewy and ugly. We put it back there again because we don't want to deal with it. But if you can put the courage together, because it does take a little bit of courage, a little bit of dare, to start putting yourself first before these other things, it's amazing how it becomes easier and easier to do that. And your exploration.
And that's to the point of the step 3 in the gratitude formula. Choose goals that are right for you.
Right.
And one of those goals is to make sure that you're whole, healthy, and complete, that you're first in terms of your care. And that will enable, if you're living from your purpose, you have tons more energy and more ability and more access to all of these wonderful resources in the universe to be able to bless other people from a more healthy place.
Yes.
So I agree with you. You should absolutely make sure that you're living from a place of purpose and that you are putting yourself first, because you won't have the energy and the resources to be able to help other people unless you're feeling supported and whole and complete. And then also for all of your audience, if they want to check out either or both of my books, there's 3 chapters of each one for free. Available at my website, maymccarthy.com, and they can see some videos and they can go ahead and download the first 3 chapters. And if they like it, then of course they can buy it from any online retailer.
That is fantastic. I encourage you. Guys, I'm telling you, you know how I'm always talking about wellness of the mind, body, and spirit, and that is a continuum. These 2 books, I think, will put you well on your path to wellness, not just from a financial perspective, because you can apply these principles to every area of your life, and you will get positive results. May, you are such a light and a blessing in this world, and you definitely, seriously have been a blessing to mine. May, thank you so much for being with us. And thank all the listeners. I'm glad I'm back. I don't know when you're going to be listening to the broadcast, but I took a couple months off to kind of breathe and have a summer vacation, so to speak, and I'm back now with all these fantastic shows. Please come back often and take a look at our archives of past shows. We have new shows coming out every Tuesday that I hope are going to fill you up with good information about how you can continue to be well in your mind, body, and spirit. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you again next time. Join me next week when I'll have a new guest discussing a new topic that will aid you at every point on your wellness journey. For more information on how to strengthen your mind, body, and spirit, click the link on your screen to check out my e-magazine, Wellness Woman 40 and Beyond. Till next time, keep living your life like it's golden.
For more wonderful shows like this, please go to selfdiscoveryradio.com, podcasts, and see our lineup. And if you wish to support us, we have a funded button. Please stay tuned for our next show.